Welcome to Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. My name is Brandon Bornancin, a serial salesperson and entrepreneur, and I'm sitting down with the world's best sales experts to share their top secrets to sales success. Hello and welcome to this episode of Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. And I am thrilled, honored, humbled, and grateful to have with me today my friend James Buckley. James is an extremely passionate sales SaaS professional who specializes in business development and personal branding. He's the author of Tip of the Spear, which he published. It's a handbook and guide for new sales development reps. He's also the creator of the popular Say What Sales hashtag, where he distributes sales tips, advice, value to the rising number of sales professionals that are present on social media across the board. With over 15,000 followers, James' life goal is to change the way salespeople view sales. James, thanks so much for having us today, man. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, Brandon, it's a real pleasure. I'm a huge fan of everything you guys got going on. I think it's awesome.
Likewise, man. And the audience, so the audience is dying to know two things. Number one, the most important, sales secrets from the top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. My man, we got to know, we got to find out what is your top sales secret. But before we share that with the audience, the second thing that people want to know, who is James Buckley? Where did you come from? Where did you work in sales? What have been the successes, the failures, the secrets that you've learned at each place that you worked throughout your career that helped you level up to the next thing, to do the next thing that makes you as great as you are today? So I'd love to kick off, James, and just open up the floor to you telling us about, background of who you are, where you came from, how you got started in sales, and the struggles and successes along the way throughout each different place you worked at.
Yeah, absolutely. So to be fair, I actually didn't necessarily start off on the best foot ever. I was a culinary guy. I went to culinary school.
Like food?
Yeah, food. I got a culinary degree and I worked in major chains. So think like Chili's and Cracker Barrel, right? Like I didn't go into like little specialized things. What it did for me was it taught me the value of good communication. What I mean by that is we had to affirm and definitely make sure that everybody knew what was happening on the line at all times. So you might have a manager come back and yell, "I need a steak mid-rare on the fly." And you'd have to yell out, "Heard that, steak mid-rare." And you'd throw that steak down. And then they'd say, "How long on a steak mid-rare?" And you'd say, 5 minutes. And then you put it up in the window and you'd say, "Steak mid-rare, ready to bounce," and they'd run it out to the table. So communication was certainly something that I had a really strong grasp on really early in my working career. In and out of kitchens for 15 years, I would take a year off and do sales. So I might go door-to-door, B2B. I might go door-to-door residential, working for companies like Winstead Marketing out of Knoxville. So basically what they did was they were a third-party sales firm for AT&T. We sold phone lines. So I would go into business like a dry cleaner, and I would say, "Hey, I noticed that you have to hang up your phone to run a credit card because you don't have an extra line. I can run an extra line for you here, and it would cost you minimal." And then I would show them how much that would cost them. We would go through the contract, they'd sign, and I'd send the guys out to install the new line. So then they could stay on the phone taking orders while they were running their credit card payments. So finding that solution to be able to continue to do both things at the same time without having to only be able to do one at a time. So that was my first real sales gig, was selling for AT&T through this third-party firm, B2B.
And that was all door-to-door sales, right?
That's right. Yeah. So what I learned in the door-to-door B2B world was that your consistency is what drives conversation. So I would go door to door multiple times a month. Like if I had a route, I would hit that route every single day, and I'd come in and I'd shake hands, high five. "What's up, man? Just stopping to say hi, come in, check things out, give you my card again, whatever." Eventually, after your fourth, fifth time, they're like, "All right, what can I do for you?" Right? Like they want to know how you can help me at that point. They're like,
dude, door-to-door sales is I love hiring door-to-door salespeople because they know how to fucking hustle and work their ass off, dude. It's literally the hardest thing to do. Like, I want to go knocking on doors right now with you, man.
Anytime.
So you would have to go, like, how many businesses or doors would you knock on?
You know, it kind of depended. Sometimes I would hit 10 because the conversations would go so long. We would talk a lot about what I did, how I can help them, the numbers, the math, what they were doing.
It was like almost like it was like you were prospecting and pitching at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, you have to.
Full stack
sales, you know.
Yep. Full stack
sales.
There's
no one else that you pass to. There is no.
You can't pass like, oh, hey, Johnny, you feel free to come on in and go ahead and pitch.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't work that way. Like, you've been hitting them up for 4, 5, 6 days straight. They want to know what you want now, right? Like, you better be ready to answer that question.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I never did. Well, I did door-to-door sales at my dorm room. But I never did like the B2B door-to-door sales. That I freaking love it though. I love hiring people that do that.
My favorite thing in the world was when I would come across like an office building.
Because there were multiple.
Spend all day in that building just knocking on doors.
Like not out in the cold. Did you? Well, Knoxville's warm, isn't it? You didn't have to go out in the cold, right?
So it's worth it to mention that I'm originally from Miami, Florida, born and raised. I moved to Knoxville about 12 years ago. There's a whole big, long story behind that. Happy to share it with you. For those of you that don't know, the restaurant industry has a real problem with drug use. And I come from a background of addiction. So
wow.
Yeah. So like in the kitchen, you can literally watch your cook's addictions rise and fall with pay periods. So you might get a paycheck
on a
Wednesday, and for the next 4 days, that cook is the best cook you've ever seen in your life. They're killing it. They're pumped to be at work. They're excited. They're positive. They're pumping out orders left and right. And then 4 days later, they're out of money. So you can watch that addiction tank them. And then for the rest of the week, they're useless. They can't come to work. If they do come to work, they're not performing well.
Wow.
So I had that same problem, right? My addiction was cocaine. It was just consistent. So that's how I ended up in Tennessee. Was I decided, screw this. I almost died. I overdosed.
Holy shit, dude.
I went to the hospital. You know, when you're under those fluorescent lights, doctors are not stupid. They know exactly what's happening. So the doctor said to me, I'm going to do an x-ray, a chest x-ray. I got hurt at work. I got burned by some hot grease, like 500-degree grease, right? So my guy was like, you got to go to the hospital. Don't say anything. Just go to the hospital, get that treated, bring you the bill. And I was like, all right, cool. So I go to the hospital. The doctor's like, look, I'm not going to tell you, how to live your life, but if you don't stop what you're doing now, you're going to have a real problem. So he does the x-ray. He puts the x-ray up. And he says, you see this thing in your chest? It looks like an NFL football. And I said, yeah. And he said, that's your heart. It's currently pushing on your ribs.
Oh, shit.
Right. So
yeah, how did you get, so you were working in the restaurant industry, and then was it just like where you grew up in Miami? Like, how did you get involved with the drug stuff, like with the drug usage?
Yeah, I mean, it's Miami, man. I love Miami to death.
Everywhere.
It's my hometown, but it's just so easy to get down there, especially cocaine. It's just a huge culture down there. But 12 years later, being sober, I drink.
Congrats,
now.
By the way, and I'm so glad to hear that you're happy and you were able to overcome that.
Well, so the answer was to leave. I had to remove myself from that environment entirely. So that's how I ended up in Tennessee. I had family here, and they heard what happened to me, and they were like, "Why don't you come up here?" And I relapsed once when I got here after my dad died. And then I realized really quick that this is the worst cocaine I'll ever have in my life. So this is where I need to live forever.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's how I ended up in East Tennessee. And that's when I got my first sales job right here in Tennessee. And that started the door-to-door thing. And then it turned out I was really good at it. So I fell in love with sales.
Was it hard to go from like cooking steaks to knocking on doors, man? Like,
not at all.
That's a hell of a transition. That's like not normal. You know what I mean?
You know what? For me, it was really organic. I didn't struggle at all to understand what it was to build a relationship with somebody in like a quick amount of time. It for some reason, like when people speak to me, they're very happy to speak to me. It's like, what I like to say is that I think they can hear me smile over the phones.
That's awesome.
So if that's true,
they can hear me smile over the phone.
Really excited to talk to me, even in person. I'm like high-fiving you. You feel good, right? That dopamine hit.
Yeah, the positivity.
Yeah, it says that James is awesome and I want to talk to him, right? That's Dude, great. I love that.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, it didn't hurt me at all to make that transition. It was almost like I say to you, pun intended, it was completely
seamless.
Yeah.
Dude, that's amazing. So
then I joined Orkin Pest Control. I went to college as a non-traditional student. So I'm 30 years old with 4 children sitting in classrooms with 18-year-olds.
wow.
Completely detached. Like I'm the old guy in the class. So like when group work is done, people are like, who's going to take the old guy?
Wow.
Yeah. So I graduate, and that's how I got hooked up with Cirrus Insight. I met a guy at Maryville College, which is a very small college here in Maryville, Tennessee, population 30,000. I got with him on Facebook. He posted, "My company's looking for salespeople." I was like, hey, I've got some sales
Facebook
experience. Yeah, Facebook. So I hit him up. I comment, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm interested. Hit me back up." So he direct messages me and introduces me to the director of business development at the time. Him and I met up. We had a great interview. And he hired me like 3-4 days later, and I was there for 4 years. In the interim there between door-to-door B2B, I also worked for Orkin Pest Control, and that was a lot of fun. So and that was door-to-door residential. So I had both. I had a taste of both.
Dude, so that was door-to-door pest control, right? Selling, like, you do their weeds or whatever?
So pest control meaning we come in and handle your roach problem, your ant problem.
That's right.
Orkin has been around since 1901. What I learned at Orkin was that branding matters. So I started out literally going into these neighborhoods, these subdivisions with signs in the front of them that say no solicitation, right? But I'm passing those signs like they're not even there, banging on doors, knocking on doors, talking to people, and no one will open the door. A 280-pound man with a mustache is not making it into your house while your husband's at work, right? So that just wasn't working out for me. So I had to come up with another way to do this. And here's what I came up with. I went in one day for lunch, and I went into a grocery store. And on my way out, I was stopped 3 times by 3 different women that were leaving the grocery store. And they had questions about ants, roaches, and ladybugs. So it hit me like a ton of bricks. I don't need to go door to door. I'm just going to sit outside and wait for people to ask me questions at the grocery store. So that's what I did.
Wow. Dude, that's crazy. Why would they come up to you again when you were there?
Well, because they saw the Orkin uniform. They saw the Orkin truck. They saw the Orkin hard hat that I was wearing. They saw the label on my shirt. I would sit on the tailgate with all the equipment in the back of the truck, right?
Got it. And they knew what you were selling, so they knew that they had to buy it.
Yeah.
Wow, dude.
It's a big red diamond that says Orkin Pest Control on it. Like,
so you're like, this is where all the traffic's at. You push it in the back. This is where all the traffic's at. I gotta be there.
Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Okay. And then what was the biggest thing? So branding was the biggest thing. Okay. These two too. Sorry, my lighting person's in here. So the Orkin. So like that was branding was the biggest thing. But what about the what was the other one that you did? AT&T. AT&T. What was the biggest secret or what was the biggest thing that you learned doing door to door at AT&T?
Consistency. You got to show up more than once. You got to
show up more than once.
Be somebody that's recognizable. They need to know who you are and what you do. And the way to do that is to continuously go back, continue to build that relationship. What you're really aiming for there is for that prospect to trust you. And familiarity is the doorway to trust.
Wow. Got it. And when you say consistency, like consistency in prospecting, consistency in follow-up, it sounds like you're talking more to follow-up, but
presence, consistency and presence. Think
presence.
Present, right? If I'm everywhere, it's really hard for you to not be excited to talk to me when I call you.
Got it. Because you know I'm consistent. You already may even know me. That's almost that aligns with branding.
You talk to that when they answer the phone, they're like, Brandon, I know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, we just hired a sales guy because he saw our videos and emails and all that jazz. Totally.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, and new customers too, of course. But
it's actually a lot easier than we think it is. We just complicate it with all our biases and our expectations that never get met.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, think about the way that you prospect. Think about the way that most people prospect. As a veteran salesperson, you probably prospect really effectively, right? You want to know what this person does, what kind of focuses they have, what their everyday routines look like, what they post on social, what their hobbies are, what they're interested in, how they word things. This is stuff that I look at before I make the first phone call or send the first email.
Yep, of course. You do your research and really understand the persona.
A novice salesperson has no idea how to do those things or where to look for them. They don't even make the connection from sales to social media. You have to point it out to them. Then we look at the expectation and we're let down because we didn't do any work to earn that attention. So we go, man, my expectation is 15 demos scheduled in a month. I don't know why I can't hit that. So my question is always the same. Well, what kind of content do you put out that leads people to you and tells them that you're a valuable person to have a conversation with? Almost 99% of the time, the answer is, I don't make content. And you go, well,
that's marketing. That's marketing, James. That's not me. That's right. What I hear.
That's right. But that's why my secret is what it is.
Oh, dude, I'm excited to go and do that. Yeah, it's interesting because, you and I are a little bit of an outlier here because we do a lot with content and a lot with delivering value across all channels.
Right.
And that's how we met was years ago. I was launching Seamless. You were selling for Cirrus Insight. Mm-hmm. And we both decided kind of at a similar time frame, like we're going to just start being out there, whether people like it or not. Was it hard for you to get out there at first? Like, how'd you get started? So what I started with, it's a funny story. When I originally started at Cirrus Insight, I didn't even really see the value in social media for sales. I only saw it as a spot for humor. So I'm a very funny person. I like humor. I can make something hilarious. Even if it's the worst thing in the world, I'll find that silver lining and make someone smile about it, right? That's just my mentality. Awesome, man. Yeah.
Because I believe in positivity. Like if you're into that negative stuff, like we're probably not going to hit it off. Really.
Yeah, I've got a no negativity rule here at the office. Like it's my number one rule when I hire someone is positivity. Yeah. Like the first thing, because if you're positive, you could fucking find a solution to anything.
Well, positive is a magnet.
Yeah,
because it's so rare, it's a magnet. So humor has always been my cornerstone, right? I want to make people laugh. That's my shit. So,
dude, that's awesome.
I was on Facebook just sharing funny stuff. It wasn't even my stuff. I was just sharing funny stuff.
Dude, I could only imagine the stuff that you were sharing.
Oh, dude, like hilarious, right? So like just sending stuff out with like little emojis laughing and thumbs up and this is hilarious type comments. And people started to gravitate towards me. They started to, oh man, I love your content. And I remember saying to myself on my couch, it's not even my content. It's like, I don't understand how many, like I get 20, 30 messages a day on Facebook. Like, I love your content. I'm like, I'm just sharing other people's shit. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. So then I started making a list of like things that I wish my prospects knew about my product before I talked to them. And that list continued to grow and became my 1 minute say what sales videos. So the first couple of videos I didn't have hashtag say what sales. They didn't have if you're a salesperson, we're the same person as a catchphrase. None of that existed yet. Yep. And people started to reach out to me saying, I love what you're saying. I love your mentality. I love your philosophy. It really works for me. Hey, I used your tactic that you talked about the other day and I made a sale. And I'd say, man, that's fucking awesome. Like, let's keep that going. And we build a relationship and start going back and forth. And what do you think about this? And what's your feedback on this? And here's this article I wrote. And then it started to hit me, right? I remember saying to myself, like, I really should just commit to this, So I built the hashtag and I was like, well, what's a good hashtag? And I needed to attach my brand to the macro of sales, something that didn't have anything to do with my product. But my product, Cirrus Insight, directly affects in a positive way the way that Salesforce users do sales.
Right.
So it makes sense to me that I would attach to this macro of sales and have people coming to me saying, what is it exactly that you sell? What's the best fucking question you could ask me?
Right. You already know me. You already like me. Now you're interested in what I sell.
Yeah. And I didn't even get paid to sell the product. If I'm being honest, I only got paid to set up the demos.
Yeah, that's incredible, man.
Yeah. So the demos convert to opportunities and so on and so forth. My gift was that I would set up the demo and then never walk away from you. That's the problem most sales development reps have, is that they spend 3 months building a relationship with somebody, then they pass them to an account executive to close the deal, and they never talk to that person again.
Wow. And how did you, yeah, totally, because you got the SDR pass off to the AE. We do that now.
Now it's your problem.
But you're saying like, you just stayed with the deal? Like, That's almost like a secret strategy in and of itself. So like share a little bit more about why and how.
Sure. So I might show up to the very first demo and I'd be the opener, Oh, hey, Sherry, thanks a lot for joining the demo. I want to introduce Aaron. He's going to take great care of you at Cirrus. Moving forward, I'm always at your service, but Aaron's going to be your point of contact for anything Cirrus related. Sales-wise, though, if you have questions or you just want to chat it up or get some positive stuff, I'm your man.
And dude, that's a sick intro too, by the way. Sick intro.
Everywhere. After that call, they deal with Aaron, and that would be the Cirrus-focused part of it, right? But then for positive, for value, for sales, for training, for quick value, tips, advice on a certain scenario, I was the person they came to. So it's value outside the product, which leads them to value your product even more.
Value outside of the product leads them to value the product even more. I love that.
Yeah.
That's really good, dude.
Yeah, and that's why my retention rate was so good, right? People would have lots of competition reaching out saying, you should switch to this, you should switch to that. And they'd go, no, I can't leave Aaron and James.
That's awesome. Because of all the value that you would deliver.
Yeah. They didn't want us to not be able to provide that value that didn't have anything to do with Cirrus Insight, right? Yeah, it's such a strange thing. It's like in the same way that people that don't sound salesy make more sales.
Yep.
It's the same thing. Provide value that is not directly related to how it affects your pocketbook. And what you'll find is that more people want to give you money.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And was that the secret, success or failure that you experienced at selling for Cirrus Insight?
So not at all. The secret that I developed at Cirrus Insight was a universal sales cycle that works all the time. I talk about it pretty regularly.
Okay, and let's talk about that. What is the universal? What do you mean? And I have to pretend like I don't know about your book and everything that you preach online. So let's just pretend like, okay, James, you're telling me the universal sales cycle works all the time, everywhere, anywhere. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I believe, and I can prove that every sales cycle actually looks exactly the same. Even if a company doesn't realize it, this is the way that their funnel is structured. There are 6 steps to every universal sales cycle.
I love it. I'm taking notes.
It all starts with content. Content is the first step. It's the road to connection, right? That connection that your salespeople make because of the engagement in the content should lead to a conversation.
Okay. So it goes content and then conversation.
Well, yeah, content, connection, and then conversation. Because you can't have a conversation before you connect, right?
Yeah, and when you say content, what does that mean? Does that mean like sending them a seamless white paper? Does that mean sending them a case study?
Could mean lots of things. So maybe you put a post out on LinkedIn and it went crazy. You had 10,000 comments and likes. All of those people are people that you can have a conversation with, people you can connect with, right? If you got insight into somebody downloading a white paper, thank you for downloading our white paper, a contextual outreach that leads to the connection and the conversation, right? If you went to an event, how did the event go for you? It was really great meeting you there. Again, connection, conversation, right? So content is the road to connection. If you wrote an article about time management and 25 people liked, commented, or shared, all 25 of those people are people you should have a conversation with about time management. And then transition that conversation into the value that you can offer for them. And you already sit in this place of value in their mind. This dopamine hit that makes them feel positive and good is already there.
Right.
So content engagement is the road to connection. That connection should lead to conversation. Those are the first 3 steps in every sales cycle, whether people want to admit it or not.
Okay. Content, connection, conversation.
Right.
And now what are the next 3?
Yeah. So the next 3 are the ones that I think are, one of them is very controversial while the other are set in stone, definitely a fact. So if you've gotten to the point where you're having a conversation, that conversation should be geared towards developing a relationship. And some people would call this the same as trust. Trust and relationship in this cycle are interchangeable because you don't always have to be in a relationship in order to gain the trust. And you don't always have to gain the trust in order to form a relationship. Those two are not mutually exclusive, But yet, in the form of the universal sales cycle, they amount to the same thing. And that is that if you've done a good job building trust or a relationship, you should have no problem asking for an opportunity.
Okay.
And if you can get to the point where you've asked for an opportunity, we all know that the law of averages states that the more opportunities we have, the more sales we make.
Yep. The more sales we make, the more money.
So that's the cycle. Every single time, content leads to connection, which leads to conversation, which leads to a relationship, which leads to opportunities, which leads to sales.
I like it. I like it.
No matter what you sell, a service, a product, a consultancy, your advice, a tip, a book, doesn't matter. Pick something. That's the way that sales cycle looks.
Yeah, CCCROS. CCCROS. Content, connection, conversation, relationships, opportunities, sales. CCCROS.
That's right. And when it comes to consistency, I use a mathematical formula for my follow-ups. It's C plus P cubed equals S for success. So in all of your outreach, you want to be courteous, professional, persistent, and patient. And that will lead you to success every single time.
Okay. Courteous, professional.
Persistent, and patient.
Persistent and patient. And that will lead to success. So CPPP.
So C plus P to the third power, or P cubed if you're a math person.
P to the third power, dude. You're dropping the threes on the three bombs on them. Oh, that's so awesome. Courteous, professional, persistent, and patient will lead to what again?
Success every time.
Success in like building a relationship, driving.
That's right. That's right. Think about the cycle we just discussed, right? It supports, that mathematical formula supports everything about that cycle.
Yeah. I mean, you should probably be those things regardless everywhere.
In your
Courteous,
life.
professional, persistent, patient, value-driven. Yeah.
In your life. No one ever accomplished a goal by not being persistent. No one ever became a professional by not being professional.
Right.
Right?
Right. And no one likes working with a dick, so you got to be courteous.
Got to be courteous. That's right. And people buy on their own time. I've said this for years. When's the last time you went to Walmart and picked up some milk because someone from Walmart called you and was like, hey, man, Brandon, you got to come on back. You're out of milk.
Right.
Come back right now and get some milk. Like, it never happens. You
got to get in here. This is the newest milk. You got to get in here.
Yeah, it's the best. We are, of all the milks, we are the awesomest milk, right?
Yeah. Never got that call. Never got that call.
Because Walmart doesn't give a shit. You're going to come get it when you need it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But that's why the content is so important.
And because the content fuels the first stage of the 6 universal sales truths, or how do you coin that again?
So I call it 6 steps in a universal sales cycle.
6 steps in a universal sales cycle. Awesome. I'm writing that down.
And legitimately, I think a lot of businesses convolute this. They don't, it's actually a lot simpler than people make it. We don't know how to manage it. It's usually something that has to do with pipeline management or bad data. And that's why I joined the RingLead team. It was because they're at the root of data quality. Yep. So if you look at a salesperson, especially in the SaaS world, if you look at a salesperson.
And we're both in the data space. Like I've invested millions of dollars into building Seamless.AI because I agree. Like you need to have your total addressable market. You need to have the world's best sales leads. So I'm 1,000% on board with this.
So there you go, right? Like nothing can happen with bad data. If you look at a salesperson's 9, 10, in some cases 12-hour day, what you're looking at is a split up of time. Where do they split that time up? Typically, it's 50-50. Half the time they're selling, but the other half of the time, they're entering data, repairing bad data, adjusting bad data, updating,
managing duplicates.
Managing duplicate records. You already hit it on the head. So if that's true, then 50% of the time, they're not a salesperson. They're a data entry person.
Yep. CRM data entry, which everyone hates.
That sales leader is still going to come out of their office at the end of that month and say, why didn't you hit your number?
Yep.
And that salesperson is going to turn around and go, man, I've spent half of my time entering bad data. And that sales leader is going to go, well, that's not my problem. My problem is that you have to hit your number. But you're not giving them the right tools to hit the number. You're not giving them clean data to work with. So they're spending half their time fixing your fuck up.
Yep. No, I agree, dude. I agree. You're hired here. That's one of the pitches that we leverage as well. I mean, I agree, dude. The big data will kill you. And It's funny because my father worked for Art for a decade. We went from poor to rich because my father was one of the top sales guys at CA Technologies.
Oh, nice.
Taking them to over $1 billion in sales. So
I'm very lucky to work with Russ Arts. You know, I didn't, if I'm being honest, I didn't even know who he was. So like, I don't have an ego, right? Like I'm very able to like sit that ego down and not care. Like I always
Me too. Dude, every time I get an ego, I get my ass kicked. And then I realize I'm not better than anything.
Every time. And I'll tell you this story. It's a quick story. It's so funny. Like instant karma. Every time I let my ego get the best of me, instant karma happens. So this guy, I was giving away this TV, and it was this giant like tube TV. You remember those?
Yeah. Right? The big ones.
Dinosaurs. So I put it on Craigslist, free TV. Come on out and get this thing. I don't even want it. And the guy calls me and he says, my mom's in a home, assisted living facility, and she needs a bigger TV because the one they have in her room is really small and she can't see it. And I was like, all right, cool. Come on by and get this thing. And he was a little guy, right? I'm 270. So do the math, right? I can pick up some heavy shit. So he looks at me and he goes, man, I'm not sure I can get that thing downstairs. And I was like, I get it. Watch out. So I grab this TV, right? It's not that heavy for someone like me. I pick it up and he's like, man, you make me look weak. And I swear to God, my words were, I make a lot of guys look weak. The moment I said it, I missed one of the steps and fell down the stairs with a 200-pound TV. Busted my lip, black eye, broke the bridge of my nose. Yeah, my wife pissed her pants laughing so hard. Yeah, it was.
Was the TV destroyed? The TV hadn't been destroyed.
Totally worked out. Like the TV was fine. I was pissed off, but I carried the TV out to this guy's truck. I came back inside. My wife's first words were, "That's what you get for being a dick."
Oh my gosh, dude! How did you drop the TV down the stairs and that thing?
I missed one of the steps. I took a step and missed the stair, so I came too far forward, and because I had the TV, I just leaned in, and there was nothing. There was nothing I could do. I was already halfway over.
So you kind of fell over the TV.
Yeah, and there was a door and a wall like right in front on the bottom of the stairs. So I hit that with the TV. Fortunately, the TV was fine.
Wow, dude. Yeah, I mean, I had a similar thing where I got my ass kicked, not physically, but launched my first company and it did really well, made millions. And then I launched my second company as an egotistical 22 entrepreneur and lost fucking everything. Yeah. And that was the when I realized like, I don't know shit. Now I always have to operate the rest of my life as if I don't know anything. So I stay humble, hungry, and on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm always a 1 out of 10.
I do the same thing. I tell people all the time, assume I know nothing.
Yeah. And most likely you're probably right.
Most likely I probably know very little. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I think ego gets in the way a lot. We live in this world, and I say this pretty regularly, but I'll say it again because I think it's true all the time. But we live in this world where as sales leaders, we get pitched the most. If you manage a team of salespeople, everyone wants your sales team to use their tools.
Yeah.
But we're programmed against change. That's what really gets me. So here's this call that we get as sales leaders all the time, right? The call always sounds the same. Hey, Brandon, what's up? Let me tell you about this change. This change is going to change your change. The way that you change, it's about to change. And we're programmed to be like, I'm not interested in your change. And then we hang up the phone and we go out and we see our whole sales team out there on the floor and we say, hey guys, we have to tell everybody about change.
Right. It's awesome.
That's the hypocrisy that we live in. People say, how do I get good at cold calling? I say, well, how many cold calls do you take every day? And they go, I never take cold calls. You go, well, maybe that's why you suck at it, right?
Yeah, dude, it's true. It's true. I never thought about it that way. But change is definitely one of the biggest objections, biggest hurdles in sales for sure.
That's what we sell. No matter what you're doing, that's what we sell. When you're a salesperson, you sell change. What you're trying to do is get someone to look at it from a different perspective all the time, every time. If they're the type, so one of the biggest discovery questions that I ask people is, would you consider yourself an agent of change?
Ooh, I like that.
If the answer is no, thank you for your time. This is probably not going to go well, right? But if the answer is yes, great. Let me tell you how change can affect you this time, right now.
That's a great discovery question.
Right.
Do you like change? Are you a fan of change? Are you?
Would you say that your company deals with change well, changes quickly? Those are questions I ask because they tell me a lot about what I'm about to go through to make this deal happen.
Wow. Dude, that's huge. I love that discovery question. Because if like we've all been working with salespeople, marketers, entrepreneurs, IT people, like, the guys, the people, men and women, that hate change, and it. You're going to come to them, and they're going to hate change. And it's like, dude, everything's changing every second of every day. Yep. Like, if you're not like, and again, I'm not trying to steal this interview. If you're not a proponent of change, you're going to get left behind.
Well, I put a tweet out yesterday with a conversation that happens to me pretty regularly. And I don't know, you're probably like me, you talk to a lot of CEOs all the time. CEOs will often say things like, I don't talk to people I don't know. My response is always
all the time.
When is your appointment to schedule bankruptcy?
And why do you say that?
Well, because if you're not talking to new people, then you're not having new conversations. And what do we know about new conversations? They lead to new relationships that lead to opportunities that lead to sales.
Right.
Every time, all the time.
Yeah.
So when you say things like, I don't talk to people I don't know, what you're saying is, I don't like new business.
Right.
I'm not a people person. Well, the people are the ones that are giving you the money.
Right.
You can't grow without new.
Yeah. Dude, that's great. And I think that's what I always accept every connection request. And like for me personally, like, cause I want to meet a lot of people. I
accept every connection request as well, but I will say that I tailor those connection requests based on the response I get from the question I send. If you are an inbound connection request for me, my immediate reaction is to send you a direct message that says, thanks so much for connecting. What can I do for you today?
I like that. Why do you send that?
Because it's super simple. And because people connect with you, and you're probably like me, because you have a big network too. Sometimes people connect with you, and the first thing they want to do is sell something to you.
Oh, gosh, it's the worst, dude.
You don't even know me or what I do or who I work with.
I mean, LinkedIn's the best, but it's the worst for auto spam pitches. It's funny. I get more auto spam messages on LinkedIn than I do on an email now.
I don't know. I think it's hand in hand. Like, okay, so here's a good question, right? How many emails do you delete every day before you start working?
I don't know. I stop. Like my inbox, I'm going to pull it up real quick. I've got, I think it's like 79,000 emails in my inbox. And like, I stop even deleting them. I just go, I let them go. And I'll just keep rolling. 69,582.
Oh my God, I can't, dude. That number right there makes me physically ill. I can't. I delete about 70, 80 emails every morning before I start my day. The irony of that is that I also send cold emails to people. So I know that they're probably being deleted or entering some spam folder somewhere at an epic rate. My other contention, though, is that for 25 years, we have associated our inboxes with the word work in our minds.
Right.
That's a very stress-filled word, work, right? So here we are, 1989, right? Or 1990 something, when Outlook hit the ground running, and people were like, "Oh, thank God we can get out of this instant message AIM stuff, right? Like Yahoo, what's that? Let's do Outlook." So ever since then, people at 5 o'clock in the afternoon or whenever they stop working have been like, well, I'm done with work. And they close their inbox. And they close their computer and they go home. But they're not done with screens. They're just looking at different ones that make them feel good. So why bombard somebody's inbox when I can reach out to them on Instagram where they spend most of their time anyway?
Yeah, I like that. So you're talking
about the conversation there.
Like figure out where they're at and just start leveraging those conversations.
That's it, man. That's what makes them feel good. Think about the way dopamine works in the brain. We know the study is clear. Dopamine in the brain is heavy on social media.
Heavy, right? Dude. Right when you get that like or that comment or that direct message.
Yeah, it's why we go back.
I love that fucking dopamine, man.
Yeah, it's good. Everybody does, right? It's the same thing you get when you drink and gamble. You've probably seen the Simon Sinek millennial question thing, right? Yeah, that conversation right there really sparked.
Well, actually, hold on. No. I don't know. What are you talking about?
Oh, man.
So The Simon thing, like obviously I'm a fan, but what specific episode or part?
So if you look up Simon Sinek's The Millennial Question, there's like a 15-minute video where he talks about the dopamine hit in the brain being the same dopamine hit that you get when you drink, smoke, gamble, right? If that's true, and there's age restrictions on drinking, smoking, and gambling, but there's no age restrictions on social media, that's the same as saying to your teenager, hey, if this adolescent thing gets you down, here you go, right? And opening up your liquor cabinet, right? That's the whole concept. So if you know that dopamine hit is heavy in the brain on social, my go-to is always, I'm going to find this person on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter before I find them in their inbox. They're not.
I got to create as much dopamine in Seamless.AI as physically possible. That was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I got to reverse engineer the dopamine effect and make sure that people get that same feeling everywhere in my platform.
I do this every single day. Every day I'm hitting you on Facebook, on social, wherever your strongest platform is, that's where I want to be. And then I will transition that into email when the time is right. So we might have a back and forth on Facebook about data management or duplicate records in Salesforce. And then I will say, hey, can I send you some basic info? Here's the email address I have for you. Is it right? If it's right, they're like, yeah, shoot it over. If it's wrong, they're like, nope, this is my email. Great, perfect. So then you send them the email. The first email that you send gets opened and it gets a response. Because you've started off on a better foot. You've started off on a positive foot that makes them feel good. It produces the dopamine in their head, in their brain. So it's harder for them to turn their back on you or delete you as an email they weren't expecting. They're actually expecting this email.
Yeah, because you kind of earn the right. You earn the right from Facebook.
Yeah. You got it. You earn the right by providing value to them outside of your product.
How do you figure out like where they're at, in your opinion? Like, how do you know if they're at on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it?
I think most people have 2 or 3 platforms that they primarily work from today. It's 2019.
Like everyone knows. Like I don't even post videos or anything on YouTube. Like I'm all in on LinkedIn. So like they know. I even put on my Facebook, if you message me or post on my wall, I'm not going to respond. I'm on LinkedIn. Find me there.
Yeah.
So but that's just me. Like, but what if I'm an Instagram guy or a Facebook guy? Like, how would you find that out?
Just searching. Just searching, man. It's as simple as typing someone's name into a search bar and hitting follow. It's as simple as looking for them every day on a different platform, finding them, or even inviting them to join a platform that you happen to really like at a different platform. Like, think about it so it's a 2,000-year-old instinct that we fight to connect with one another and extract value from each other. We've been doing that for eons, since the dawn of time. It's not different. It's just faster with the internet. That's all.
Instant almost.
Instant, yeah.
You and I can extract value from each other like instantly after one post, one video, one comment, one idea.
Yep. And it used to take a lot longer for that to happen. We used to have to go door to door and dress nice. And oh my God, like I'm a salesperson, right? Willie Lomax style. So it's totally different now because there is a plethora of people to choose from to connect with and have a conversation. And what do we know about conversations?
They lead to opportunities and then they lead to sales.
Right,
conversation, relationship, opportunities, and sales. So that's what you learned at the 6 steps of the universal sales cycle. That's what you learned at Cirrus Insight, right?
I did. Yeah. That's my secret that I took from Cirrus Insight. 4 years.
Awesome.
4 years got me on that.
And I mean, you were prospecting me heavily. Unfortunately, we were entrenched with another competitor at the time who I also love. And actually one of my mentors was Brandon, your boss there at Cirrus Insight, who I've got a ton of respect for. Those
Brandon's
guys
awesome.
bootstrapped
really
that company.
To work for Cirrus Insight and Brandon and Ryan.
They're great product guys and just great people, dude. Great people.
Yeah. I always say, I have said, even since I left, I've said, anything you guys need, let me know. You might have seen the video I put out about how to leave a job properly. We make a choice on whether we want to build bridges or burn them. That's the choice we make every time we move positions. And I always would rather build a bridge than burn it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you just never know. It's funny. My former clients, my former employees became my biggest investors and my biggest customers. Like, what if I left and just tried to burn the place down? Like, my former employees and my former customers are my biggest, customers and investors today. It's like literally they now run an $800 million fund, and it's like they're our largest investor. And I'm like, holy shit. Didn't see that one coming 5 years ago.
Yeah, and no one ever would. But we're all just people, right? Like, I look at wealthy people and people that are investors and people that can help me grow. And yeah, that's awesome that you've got the resources to help me and do things for me. But in the end, we're the same. I put my pants on the same way you do every single day, and I will talk to you the same way that I talk to everybody every day.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's why people gravitate towards my content. It's why they respond so well. It's why it's so positive, is because it's meant to level the playing field. You have a problem? I'd love to solve it for you. I have a problem. Can you solve it for me? This is the 2,000-year-old instinct that people still have, and yet we fight the change. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's crazy. So let's get into sales secrets from the top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. We went over a lot of things of, how you got started in sales, James, from the restaurant industry to selling door to door, what you learned about being omnipresent, what you learned about being branding, what you learned about being persistent and follow up. And, going wherever they're at, the 6 universal truths from, your selling time, selling the workflow, sales management platform, Cirrus Insight. Tell me, what is your top, tell the audience, what is your top sales secret? If you had to go back in time to when you first started in sales, if you had to hire someone and you had to give them one secret advice to maximize their sales success, if you had one paper to write down that secret and it could only be one thing on a page, what is your top sales secret?
My top sales secret is this, and it's real simple. No and never talk to me again don't mean the same thing.
No and never talk to me again don't mean the same thing.
So I find that sales reps have a tendency to hear the word no from people, and they immediately remove them from their pipeline. That makes zero sense to me when it comes to pipeline management. Because if somebody says no to me, that's a 3-4 month follow-up. Okay. Hey, last time we talked about growth, you weren't interested. Is that still your position? If your answer is no, that's crazy. Right?
Right.
But people here never talk to me again. That's when you remove them. Right? Stop emailing me. Okay. That's when you remove them. That doesn't mean I can't call you though.
Right.
Doesn't mean I can't send you chocolates on Valentine's Day. Yeah. It doesn't mean I can't send you a swag box with all kinds of stuff in it. Doesn't mean I can't shake your hand at a show. Right? It just means stop emailing me. All right, well, let's connect on LinkedIn instead. No is not the same as never talk to me again. Got it.
No is not the same as never talk to me again. I'm writing that down. Yep. Okay, so this is a great example. You and me. You were trying to sell me Cirrus, and yep. I was an outreach customer.
Yep.
I was like, dude, I love the platform and I love the founders, but I don't have time, energy, focus. I got nothing to be able to look at anything. We're rolling with what we got. Yep. So that was like that change problem, right? Like we had that change problem, but I told you no.
Yep. And here we are on this podcast with a great relationship that we've maintained for the last 2 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Still value.
Exactly. And
if you ever left outreach, there'd be no question that I'd be the first person you'd come to.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
Because you'd be ready to buy on your own time.
Yeah, because then that's the timing thing. So when you say
why
right,
relationship is so important, and hearing no is okay. Just means they're not ready to take that step yet. That's all.
So what do you do then? I tell you no. For salespeople out there who will hear no every day of the week, right? 100 times a day, we all hear it. It's hard to get rejected. You know, you and I are trained to overcome that stuff, but what is your strategy, your secret to handling no is not the same as never talk to me again?
So when I hear no or not interested, I set a task for a week later, 7 days later, 5 days later, whatever you want to set it as, but a few days down the line to start reaching out on social. What that does, if they connect with me there, is it gives them the exposure to my content. It makes them aware of who I am and what I do. At that point, most times what I get is comments, likes, or shares from that same person that told me they weren't interested. 3-4 months down the line, when I call them and say, hey, I just wanted to say thanks for being a great connection and liking all my content. I'm doing this positive thing where I call people and I say thank you for all the value they give me. So you were on my list today. They're like, oh, thanks a lot, right? Then I say, last time we talked, you weren't interested in learning about my product. Is that still how you feel? And they go, well, what do you do? So they don't even know what they said no to begin with. They're just programmed to say no.
Right. They could have been putting together an annual report for their chief revenue officer. You called them. They were fucking busy because it was end of year. And they're saying no to anyone that calls.
Dude, their dog could have died yesterday. Their kid could be sick. They could have had a rough start to the day. They fought with their husband last night. You don't know.
No idea. And everyone's going through shit. We all go through so much shit.
We all have stuff. What matters is that when they said no to me, I built a platform for them to see me, to find me, to interact with me, to engage with me, to get familiar with me, right? And it might sound egotistical because I'm out for the gain. But at the same time, the familiarity is what is the doorway to interest, right? I get people all the time that say, no, fuck off, stop calling me, stop emailing me, I don't want to hear from you again. And you go, okay. And then it was a mutual connection that liked one of my posts and they saw it and they call me and they go, hey, my friend so-and-so just liked your post and I saw it and I thought it was great. So I wanted to call and pick your brain. And you're like, oh, nice. Let's talk about it, you know? And then it's even more fun when you get to remind them, hey, remember when we talked back in April and you told me to fuck off?
Yeah. Yeah.
Most of the time they're going to tell you no. They don't remember that because they don't even know what they say no to. That's when people say not interested, I respond. When you've not interacted with me at all, but your response is not interested in, my immediate response is, what aren't you interested in?
Right. Which part or what? Yeah, I agree. Like, what aren't you interested in?
Most people don't have an answer to that question because they don't know what they're not interested in. They're just not interested.
No, thanks. Not interested.
Okay. Yeah, no, thanks. I'm all set. I don't need any growth. I'm good.
I don't want more sales.
Yeah. I don't want to increase my 21% this year. I'm fine. We're just going to stay the same. The saddest words in business are we've always done it this way.
Yeah. They're the worst. That's a dream
the worst.
killer.
And we hear it every day. No, thanks. I'm not interested in change. You know, oh, hey, I don't really want to change, but I do have a team of guys out here that would love to tell you how we can help you change.
Right.
Right.
Dude,
that's another one.
That's so funny. It's so weird because I'm so programmed to change like 24/7, always in a constant state of optimization that like, I don't even remember when I wasn't like expecting to have to change every single day, to optimize every single day. Salespeople, marketers, entrepreneurs, recruiters, anyone listening to this, if you're scared of change, if you don't like change, you will die and you will lose. Like, you have to get used to it 100%.
There's an argument that people make all the time. Like at some point you just have to commit, right? You can't just keep changing. You have to commit to something. And I absolutely see why that's necessary. But if you've used outreach for 2 years and you're at this point with it, maybe that add-on to outreach or the way that the data in outreach or Marketo or whatever platform you might want to pick is handled, maybe that little change takes it to a whole nother level. But you'll never know that because you're not interested in change.
I love that, man. So no does not mean no ever again. So you recommend to for this secret, you recommend setting up tasks to follow up with them.
Yep. I recommend 2 things. I recommend that sellers realize the difference between those 2 things, no and never talk to me again. Okay. And buyers, be very clear with salespeople. If you're going to say no, recognize the fact that there's a good chance they might come back to you someday and say, is this still the way you feel? If you're going to say not interested, you better tell them what you're not interested in, because otherwise you look foolish saying you're not interested in something you know nothing about.
Yeah. But they don't care sometimes to look foolish. They're okay with it.
You know what? If that, and this is one of those things, right? Maybe I'm weird. I get that. I'm different. right? We're people like us. We're different.
Yeah,
But
I'm
if
okay.
that's,
I've been called weird my whole life, you know?
yeah, I'm fine with it. I don't care. It doesn't affect me at all. If that's your contention though, then you're probably not a great prospect for me anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way around that. If this is your contention that you have no interest in growth, you don't want to learn anything new, and you're not willing to change anything.
Not a good prospect. Move on.
Not a prospect. Move next person. Yeah. Like salespeople need to know when to cut ties, right? If you're a salesperson that's out there consistently providing value and driving revenue and driving people to your website so that other salespeople can get revenue too, you're on a macro level of salesperson. If you're a salesperson without a personal brand that doesn't put content out there, you're at the micro level. You're an individual contributor that is reaching out one person at a time and trying to get traction with an account. Those are two very different kinds of salespeople.
Yeah.
So look at it from that perspective. They both have the same problem.
Yep.
When do I let go? When is a prospect no longer a prospect? When you realize that this person is not interested in change or growth, that person is no longer a prospect. They might be a valued connection. They might be a great conversationist, but they're not a prospect for you.
Wow, dude. No does not always mean never again.
Yeah. And you might hear somebody say, I'm not interested. Well, hey, do you know anybody that is? How come nobody ever asks that question? They just remove them from the pipeline.
Right.
Entrepreneurs hang out with each other. They have drinks together. They know what each other's problems are.
Same with salespeople, same with marketers, same with IT people.
Yeah. So you gotta look at it from an industrial standpoint. You got to look at it. What industry is this person in? And what do I know about that industry? If you're not interested, I'll bet you know 10 people that will be.
Yeah. And then you got to ask for that referral.
I got shit like this all day, man. Like people want to know about discounts. That's always the big thing, right? Oh, they're already asking me for discounts. Give them the discount. But here's 3 things you need to do to earn it. I want 3 posts on social media a month. I want all of the leads from your next event that you go to. I want 2 articles a month posted on social media, right? Like don't just give them a discount because you want to close the deal. That's silly, right? Get something for that discount. I don't know. Maybe that's just weird and people shouldn't do that. I found great success with it. People always want to tag me and stuff, and I think it's great. All it does is push people in your direction, which that just leads to content and connection.
Right.
And what do we know about content and connection?
It leads to relationships, which leads to opportunities, which leads to revenue with the 6 universal sales truths. Awesome, man. Well, we got to wrap up here. James, thank you so much for joining us for Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. Where can people follow you, subscribe, and learn more from you?
So you can find me on just about every single social media platform that's out there. All you have to do is look for the hashtag #SayWhatSales. I'll definitely be there. Or you can call me direct. I give everybody my phone number. I want people to call me 305-632-6005. Or if you're one of those quiet people that don't like the attention and don't want to have a real conversation, I get that. Send me an email, jbuckley@ringlead.com.
Awesome, man. Well, this has been great. And again, thank you for the audience for tuning in to this top sales secret, which we reviewed. No is not the same as never talk to me ever again. And you have to figure out what's the difference, how to manage that, and how to build long-term relationships at scale using the 6 steps in the universal sales cycle: content, connection, conversation, relationships, opportunities, and sales. Thank you so much for joining us for Sales Secrets from the Top 1%, where the world's best sales experts share their secrets to sales success. Order your copy of the book at secretsalesbook.com, secretsalesbook.com. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Sales Secrets from the Top 1%. We release new episodes every Monday and Thursday, so make sure you subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube to never miss an episode.